mattina. Ok? Quando sei pronto me lo dici, ok? Ok, va bene. So, when creating the center, there were many aspects which gradually developed, which I think they are very important. But the whole center exists basically in order to serve our own spiritual practice. That's the reason why the center actually exists. And then, so one of the important aspects is which we are going to go through today again, which is actually meditation. Is actually having the time to be with ourselves, to sit down, to meditate, to familiarize ourselves with certain states of mind and so on. And one of the first aspects is to get away from distractions, which we explained yesterday. Yes. So, because of that, the idea of making retreats is something very important. So to have the opportunity, anyone after having some experiences with Dharma practice, to be able to do a little bit longer retreat. Maybe you take 2 weeks, maybe 1 month, maybe 3 months, whatever time you can, or even longer, to do full time dedicated for meditation and your own spiritual practice in a place in which you are away from distractions. It is actually very important. So this is the reason why we are making these retreat houses in the forest area. And hopefully it will all go successful. And so I think it's just a matter of time and work, and then it will come, the moment in which we can also do it. Okay? So now we go with the teachings of today. We start by generating the motivation. We do the mandala offering as a way to request the teachings, and then we do the generation of the motivation together. Sa shi pe ki chu shi me to Rama re raba linga shi ni de gem pa di sangye shin tu mik te ulwar ki Drukuna namanda shingla chupara shoye damang guru ratna mandrala kam niryatayami Sangye chedan tsoge chanam la chanchu pardo dani kyapsu chi Dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye druparashu Sangye chedan tsoge chonam la chanchu pardo dani kyapsu chi Dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye druparashu Sangye chodan tsoge chonam la chanchu pardo dani kyapsu chi Dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye druparashu In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Con la pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni, possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. Lai ke da ludane jinke rubundandami kenamdan ruwakunge dranam che tsampa tamche keto dagi che tento. Let's imagine that we like to drive to a certain place. Okay, so we take a car and we have a place that we want to go. One of the very important things is that we need to know how to drive, and the car needs to follow the instructions that we give. Because if we try to follow a car and we are going in one direction, then we turn right and the car decides to go left. And then, we go left and the car goes left, but then goes more left than we want. And when the car is supposed to be straight, it doesn't go always straight. Try to imagine just what would be to drive a car that really do not follow precisely our instructions. Quite complicated, no? Okay? Now, we put one objective for ourselves. I want to think about this. Even just try. We place the mind and say, observe one's own breath, or anything. Look in front of you. Choose one object that you see. Anything, the person in front of you, one color, one object. I have the microphone. Better I look at the camera, so I look at the eyes of people that are on the other side at least. Look at one object. You can see it, right? Can you see? You choose one object. Now look at it and try to say to yourself, stay in it. Don't allow other thoughts to come in. Is it possible? Did any other thoughts come in or not? Okay, it depends on your practice and how long you try and what other interferences there are around. Sounds, smells, touch, and so on. So this is the car that doesn't follow well the instructions. We say, go into that place, and then as we try, we are holding the car, and then suddenly when we see, the car went to the other side. And then we try to bring the car back. Sometimes we can, sometimes we took one road that there is no way back easily. We need to stop the car, restart again the engine, everything again, then we're able to go back into the same direction. Okay? This is what happens to a mind that is not trained. This is very, very common. There is nothing wrong with us. Most of us are simply not familiarized into concentration, into having one's own mind tamed in this way. Okay? So, before choosing where we want to go, we need to learn how to have control over the car. Okay? This is, I think, the first step that is very important also for us. Ok? Una cosa per voi, se volete andare anche al piano sopra, con le cuffie si sente ugualmente. Se uno di voi vuole andare nel piano di sopra nelle gompa di Tara, uno di voi, solo per dire, la cuffia funziona esattamente uguale. Se volete, così, solo per... Ok, sorry. No, just trying to find solutions. So, it is fundamentally important, before I start one trip, I need to know where I want to go. And I need to make sure that I know well how to use the vehicle that I have. So if I have a car, I need to be able to use the car well. If I have a bicycle, I need to be able to use the bicycle. Okay? So where do we want to go? We want to go to a place where we are in peace with ourselves and others, where we are in harmony, where we feel joy. We want to go to a place where we familiarize ourselves with so-called our qualities, and by that we overcome our so-called defilements and inner conflicts. Okay, we want to go there. But in order to go there, there is a long way to go. It's not so obvious. But even though we know what is the path, what happens if we don't have control over our car? The situation gets a bit more difficult. Okay? So the first step, which is necessary, it's to gain control over our own vehicle. At least some level of control, even if it's not right away absolute control. Okay? There is one level of control in which we are on the path, then sometimes we go a little bit out of track, and then we can put back into track again. It's not a straight line, we go a little bit in and out, but somehow we can keep on the right direction. Then there is a higher level of control in which we are on the right track and we remain into that track very stable. Okay? When we are in the right track and we remain into it, we reach the place where we want to go much, much faster. If we go in, out, we stop. Sometimes we go a little bit forward. Sometimes we end up going backwards. Sometimes we end up in places we didn't ever thought that we would go. Okay? So, it is very, very important, once we want to use our mind, to learn to have more control over our mind. The good news is that our mind is very, very flexible. The mind of every one of us. Our mind learns and changes through habit. Now, as Shantideva said in the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, Komna lawar migyurpe mute kaya yemain. There is nothing that is not easy once familiarized with it. So things get easy once we get used to it. Okay. So right now, our mind, most of us, our mind is used to follow external objects. So we are always looking, what am I seeing? What am I listening? What am I touching? What I am tasting? Okay, what am I smelling? Most of the times we are busy with this, or we are busy with external objects that regard the past or the future. Where have I been? Whom have I met? Where will I go? What will I do? We are mostly busy with this, or not? How often are we busy with concepts and ideas that are not something tangible, that are not objects of our senses? Not so often. Right. The other issue is that because we are so busy with external objects, the tendency of external objects is to change very fast. We are used to change fast. So one example is when we look at movies. Take a movie from the 70s or from the 80s. And if we take a movie that was done in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, up to a recent movie. What is one of the main differences we find in the movies as time passes? If we take a beautiful movie from 20, 30 years ago, for nowadays the movie looks very slow. Nothing happens. This long scene, it's just the beginning of the movie, that there is the music and the name of who is in the movie, nothing is happening, already people start to get nervous. Come on, what is happening? Nothing is happening here. Or not? No? So what happened is that if we look, another example, okay, first we finish with this one. More and more we are getting used with more information. And we have very easy access to information. So our mind is more and more used to go very fast from one thing to the other. So this becomes the normality for us. And when we need to stay longer into something, it becomes difficult. Because we are not used to it. One time, someone was telling me some time ago that the time for a school class is around 50 minutes, right? I think in Italy and in other European countries, how long does a class last in school? 50 minutes. Why? Because in the 70s, if I am right, or some years ago, there was done a long study to check what was the time of attention that young kids had. So for how long could young kids stay with attention on one subject? And they saw that the time that most kids were able to stay within one subject was 50 minutes. They redid the whole study, the same study, they redid it a few years ago, recently. And from 50 minutes, what do you think? It became longer or shorter? How much shorter? From 50 we got to 30? 12. So imagine a teacher in school. You know, I'm sorry for teachers. But the point is that our mind gets used according to what we do. It's like one time, I always remember this, I was in Beijing, and we went to eat something, and we passed inside this sort of big commercial center, or many shops and so on, and inside of it there was one area for children to play with all sorts of games for children, from very young age into older age, with teenage and so on. And when I looked to it, I said, wow, that's very nicely made. There were all sorts of games there and so on. And there was a friend together, and she said to me, oh, look how violent that is, poor children. And I said, why? It doesn't look violent, it's nice games and so on. She said, after so much inputs for the senses, the children get back home, open the book and say, and now what? Okay? Our senses, our mind adapts to the context in which we are. We get used to things. Things that initially are difficult, after some time, become easy. So the more we have constant access to external inputs, the more our mind gets used to that timing. That's my understanding. Okay? So, normally, we are used always to jump from one object to the other. That's the timing that we have. You know, we are not very contemplative, that we stay in one thing for a long time and then we move to another. And in our time, it's getting worse, actually. Okay? So, when we try to sit down and place our attention into something and just leave the mind there, we are walking against the current. We are walking against our habit. Because the habit that we have is that of being constantly, let's say, bombarded by one object and another, and the mind is constantly jumping from one thing to the other. Okay? And remember, once again, the mind is made out of habits. Even if we go to look from a neurological point of view, that's not my field of expertise, but from what I have understood, from a neurological point of view, it's also very clear how the mind is made out of habits. The mind slowly finds its way to adapt in the best way to the environment and the actions that it needs to do. Okay. This is also called the plasticity of the brain, which is the matter that if we think in a certain way, if we use our mind in a certain way, gradually our brain physically will change. Okay, so the very good news that we have here is that our mind is flexible. And our mind can change, is always changing. The bad news is that the change is gradual, and it needs to be constant. Okay? So, one time a friend was explaining me, Marcia, that is here these days, Marcia's there she is, that when we do training of professional sports training for Olympics, for example, there is one theory which has been proven in many ways, that let's say you are training and you need to do a certain number of kilometers in a certain time, running. So in order to reach the best of your performance, every day you need to do a little bit more. So every day you will try to do the same kilometers a little bit faster. Okay? And there is a constant training. What has been seen is that if I stop one day, the next day I am not where I have stopped the day before. I have done one step behind. I am one day behind from where I have stopped. So if I was running in 10, and my idea is every day to step one number more, and tomorrow I need to do in 11, and the day after to 12, and so on. If I stop on 10, the next day, when I stop for one day, the next day when I start again, I am not on 10, I am on 9. And if I stop for 2 days, the next day I am on 8. So I go in the opposite direction in the training. That's why we can never stop when we're this type of training. For the mind, it's somehow similar. So that's why to train our mind, it's not enough to have strong experiences and to focus strongly for some time. One of the most important characteristics of a training, physical or mental or behavior training, is constancy. Okay? I'm saying all of this because some people may say, oh, I tried meditation, for me it's too difficult. Have you tried? Truly? Yes, I did 2 times. No. I mean, tried with a certain constancy, a certain period of time in the right way for at least 3 months. Then you will tell me if it works or not. I believe anyone can do it. But it's a matter of putting energy into it. Okay? So, in order to do that, the first question before we enter into the preliminary practices, after the correct posture of meditation, we need to generate the correct intention, the correct motivation, which is love towards oneself by taking refuge and love towards others. But to do this, we need to be able to direct our mind. So the first step is to prepare the mind by generating a neutral state. And we do this by breathing meditation. But before we enter into the actual technique of meditation, I like just to explain one thing, which is why to meditate. Because the truth is that we do not do that we do not want. So if we don't say, I must meditate, wow, that's so wonderful, I must do it, it's difficult, yes, but I will do it, that's so special, I need to do it. We wake up in the morning, I need to meditate. Oh, I need to do this, or when is my meditation time? Oh, so good, there it is. You know? If we're there, oh, I may need to meditate, but it's difficult. Oh, do I really do? I don't know. Then forget. Okay. So why do we need to meditate? First reason, for me, is that the most powerful resource that we have in our life for our happiness and for our suffering is our own mind. If I simply make the question to all of us, what type of suffering do you have more, physical or mental? Which one? Mental. Okay. So who is creating mental suffering? External conditions, the body, or the mind? Where do the suffering come from? I make the question in a different way. Have you ever been in a similar situation and experienced it differently? One time with suffering, another time without suffering, and another time even with joy? Being in a very, very similar situation? Have you ever looked at the same movie in a different time and the movie looks different? And one time was joyful and the other time no? And one time even it maybe disgust you and the other time not? So, this shows us that our subjective inner experience is not determined by its influence, but not determined by the external condition. So our mental suffering is not caused, it's conditioned, it's influenced, but it's not caused by external conditions. Our mental suffering is caused by our own mental defilements, ways of using the mind that doesn't really work well. Okay? And there are many, and we could go slowly into different to see each one of them. But the important thing to understand is that if suffering, mental suffering, comes from the way how we use our mind, where will the solution for mental suffering lie? In external conditions or in the mind or in the body? Where can we find the solution for mental suffering? External conditions, body or mind? Mind. Normally, where do we look for solution for mental suffering normally? We go to the shopping center, we try to buy a new pair of shoes, we go to eat something nice, we try to take a medicine, something to change our humor, or not. So normally we try to look for a solution for mental suffering in external conditions and in the body. I had a long discussions once with a psychiatrist in Brazil. And our main point of discussion is, who is the real boss, the body or the mind? Because if the real boss is the body, and we find the right chemical balance, I would have no problem to start giving pills to everyone, including myself. Imagine if you take a pill and you start becoming like a bodhisattva, full of compassion and stability, relating to the world in a very harmonious way, one pill for wisdom, another pill for compassion. Okay, you need to take the pills constantly, no problem. I would buy a lot of them. But I do not ever believe that this actually exists and work. Okay? What some pills do, from my understanding, very often is block some mental processes that are connected to some states of mind generating suffering. But anyhow, this is not the subject that we go through, and I am not an expert on this. But the point is that the body and the mind, who is the boss? What I understood is that I can take as many pills and try to fix the chemical part of my body. It will help for some time. But if I do not make a psychological, mental change in my way of thinking and acting, that defilement, that state of suffering will come back again. If I use a physical help through some medicine and to give some support for the mind, and then I make an inner change of behavior and mental change, psychological change, then at one point this psychological change will hold up the physical change, and I don't need anymore to take anything. And this is sustainable in time. Okay? So finally, the point is that we don't want to suffer. And most of our suffering is mental. I'm not saying that we are all mentally sick, even though it's quite difficult to give the precise description of what means to be mentally sick and what means to be mentally healthy. It's not so simple, huh? I just say something in between, because sometimes things come to my mind. If I don't say, they get stuck there and they take some space. Some years ago, I was in a conference in Holland, organized by our friend Rohier, and there was one of the speakers. They were mostly psychiatrists in the conference, many people there. Mostly were all psychiatrists. And there was the president, if I remember well, the president of the Union of Psychiatrists of Holland, something like that. And this guy was giving his speech, and it was nice to see the speech given only to psychiatrists. There were no other type of people. I was the only one there that had nothing to do with the whole thing somehow. My role was to give a speech on spirituality and mental health. Anyhow, he was explaining that at some time, I don't remember in which year, in the 60s or in the 50s, some decades ago, one doctor in the United States one psychiatrist, he came out with a question: how do we define if a person is mentally ill? How do we know? So what he did was that he sent healthy people to different mental institutions, hospitals, faking they had a mental disease. So they start saying that they were listening to voices and they were seeing things. They were faking as if they had a classical thing of schizophrenia. Okay? Most of them were put into the hospitals, went under medicine, some even were used electroshock. Okay? After some days, they said, oh, now I feel good, I don't listen anymore to anything, I don't see, I am fine. Some of them were dismissed, others were still kept for quite a long time. Okay? So at one point, the doctor came into public with newspapers and so on, whatever, and he said, careful, all you institutions, because I sent many fake patients and no one knew how to judge between a true patient and a fake patient. So he says, now this year, careful, because I will send more patients. Many more. To all the institutions, I will send many fake patients. So you be careful. So what happens that comes the next year, and there were many patients that were not accepted in the mental hospitals, saying, oh, you are not a real sick person. And there was a big number of people that were not accepted, admitted, thinking they were fake patients. And by the end of the year, it came out how many patients were not admitted and how many fake patients did he send. And he sent 0 fake patients at that year. So this was just a way, I was saying that up to now, sometimes, the mind is a big, great mystery. And it's really not easy to define what is a healthy and an unhealthy mind on many different levels. Then there are sure some big, strong levels which are of unbalance and suffering and so on. If we would go from a Buddhist perspective, from my understanding, what is a healthy mind? It's a mind that is always in balance, that is never in conflict, that doesn't see things in an inconsistent way, that relates to what is impermanent as being impermanent, that relates to what is subjective as being subjective, and so on. So a Buddha has a healthy mind. Okay? If we are not a Buddha, our mind is not truly, perfectly healthy. This is my own point of view. Okay? Anyhow, the point is that most of our suffering is mental. And this is clear for us. And if the mental suffering, we try to solve the mental suffering with external conditions. We try to avoid the objects of suffering that we don't like. We try not to talk to people that we don't like. We try to make situations look nice. We try to do everything to try to be happy. Does it really work or not? No. So the point is, we have tried with the context, doesn't work. We have tried with the body, it doesn't work. We can have a healthy body, we can take all sorts of pills to help our chemicals of the body, but it doesn't really work. It doesn't really sustain a state of health. I have seen people near to me that, for example, were taking some pills and I would say the dosage was quite high, and they looked happy but was not really happy. It was like they were very uncomfortable. It really didn't work out. And so we tried in many ways, and what we have seen is that up to now we have found no solution. So this brings to a very simple logic. Physical suffering, the solution is in the body. Mental suffering, the solution is in the mind. Simple as that. Okay. If I'm suffering because I do not have enough food, where is the solution? Find food. If I'm suffering because my body feels too much cold, the solution is external conditions. Need to find a hotter place, or I need to generate inner heat, or put more clothes. But if I have a mental suffering, in which I feel anxiety, in which I am sad, I am unsatisfied, and so on, the solution is in the mind. But for many different reasons, normally we are not taught this. I don't know. Have anyone in school been taught how to use your own mind for your happiness? No. Did we ever train, okay, the most powerful tool that we have is the mind, how do we train it? Not really. Okay? So it's something that we need to start new. We need to start because we have not been trained in that way. So the first step is how to use our mind. Before we direct it into any particular way, before we can really choose where to go and what qualities to familiarize, which dynamics and conflicts to overcome, all of this, the first step is we need to train to use our mind, to direct our mind. It's like if we are in a horse and we don't have the reins of the horse in our hand. The horse goes anywhere. Instead, we need to take the reins in our hand and direct it. Okay. Next, knowing how to drive and having control of the car is not enough if we do not know where we want to go. So once we develop the capacity to drive correctly, to use where the car, then we need to focus all our attention in where do I want to go, not into driving. Because driving is automatic. So once we learn how to have correct level of concentration, how to have a more stable mind, then we start the whole process of training our mind into the states of consciousness, into the mental states that we want to train ourselves. Okay. Let's make one example. Okay, first of all, there are a few types of meditation. In Tibetan we call what is called Jorgom, Chegom, and Shargom. There are three main types of meditation that is described in Tibetan. We have Jorgom, which is single-pointed meditation. We place our mind into one object and the mind remains there. We have Chegom, which is called analytical meditation. Analytical meditation is in which our mind is focused on one object, but it analyzes the object. Okay? So it's like a sort of inner dialogue of analysis where we check and we understand from different ways the object. We will give examples now. And Shargom is a type of meditation in which we familiarize ourselves with different steps to follow. So it's like, okay, I know that I need to go to that place. First I will pass to this first, second step, third step, fourth step, before we see what we will do, the steps that we will follow. Okay, these are the three types of meditation that exist. So let's imagine that we take, for instance, this book that I have in my hand. Okay, and we want to familiarize ourselves with the book. If I show you the book now, can you see it? Okay. Now, can you imagine the book? Yes. But if I ask you, how new is the book? How well taken care is? Are the corners clear or are the corners a little bit old? Do you have memory of that? Not really. Okay. So now we analyze it a little bit. We look at it. Can you see here? It's really not so new. This is one of my favorite books. I have used it a lot. And it's a little bit old. Can you see? Okay. The book, it's in Tibetan. Okay. When you open it, you can see that it's a little bit open here also. Okay. It's a book which talks about different practices. It's teachings from Phabongkha Rinpoche and Dechen Rinpoche about different ways of the Dharma practice on a practical level, not philosophical book, on a practical level. It's a compilation of texts done by Phabongkha Rinpoche and Dechen Rinpoche. This book was printed in India. This one precisely, the compilation was done by one of my gurus, which is Geshe Thupten Rinchen, and it was originally printed in the occasion of one particular ceremony that one Lama from my monastery, he needed to do, so in that occasion this book was printed. Okay. Now, you see the book? Can you imagine the book? The mental image, the picture that we have of the book now, is the same as before or it's more clear? It's much more clear, many more details, no? And then if we go on analyzing the book, you hold on your hand, you feel the weight of the book. You feel the texture of the book. Then you start reading the content of the book. We start seeing every minimum aspect of the book. The more we go deep into it, the more detailed is our mental image of the book, right? Okay. Now, you see the book. When you think about the book, there is a mental image, right? If we stick to that mental image and we stay with our mind into it, okay, you stay looking at the book even. If you imagine that you can place your attention on the book and you stay looking at the book with all its different characteristics, and you stay looking at it without any other object for, let's say, 1 hour. Will you forget the book easily? No. If I show you the book for 1 minute, the probability of forgetting it, it's much higher than if we look at it for 1 hour, or not. Okay? So, if I look a little bit at the book, then I stop looking, and then after some days I look again, it has a complete different capacity of memorizing the book and making this mental image stable, that if I look to it and I remain into it. Okay? So, the analytical meditation is where we enter into the details of something. I am not analyzing anything else. I'm only analyzing the book, but I will look at all the details of the book. And the more I do that, the more clear the mental image becomes. Okay? Once I get to a conclusion of the book, then I stay single-pointed on that conclusion. I look at the book that is the result of all that analysis, that has all that characteristics, and I have a mental image, and I stick to that mental image. I stay looking at it in this way. And the more I can do focusedly, with single-point concentration, the stronger that image is imprinted in my mind. Okay? So, if I look at the book, little bit here, little bit there, little bit one moment, another, the image will not be so strongly imprinted in my mind. Similar to that, if we want to familiarize ourselves with the preciousness of this life, or if we want to familiarize ourselves with our own mortality, with impermanence, or we want to familiarize ourselves with a state of love or satisfaction, or we want to familiarize ourselves with the interdependence of all phenomena. There are so many things to meditate on patience, on generosity. There are so many things. If first I analyze love until I am able to generate an inner state of love. Once I generate this inner state of love, then I need to keep my mind into it without other distractions. If I am able to do that, I will familiarize myself with that state of love in a much, much higher way than if I have a little bit here, a little bit there, and so on. Is it clear? Okay. So if I ask you from 1 to 10, how important is for you to have control over your mind? 2? 5? I hope 10. Okay? So, if it is really important for us to be able to set our mind into something and the mind follows, to be able to develop a good level of concentration, then there are exercises to train ourselves into it. Some people ask me, Lama, how do I develop good concentration? By concentrating. It's like if you go to the gym and you ask someone training in the gym, oh, I want to have very good muscles in my arms. How do I do that? Is there one thing, 1 minute? Okay, take the weight, go there, one day, another day, few hours, every day. Because what happens if I take 48 hours and I never stop the same exercise? Would it make any benefit? It will probably harm me. Instead, if I go every day and I do a certain number of minutes and I will continuously, gradually, more and more, I will train. Okay? Our mind just go in the same way. So, the first thing that we need to do with our mind is to stop the mental agitation. Mental agitation in Tibetan is called Gurpa. There are two main enemies for meditative concentration. One is called Gurpa and the other one is called Chingwa. Okay? For most of us, the strongest one is Gurpa. And the difficulty is that somehow when we deal with Gurpa, we have the tendency to go towards Chingwa. Which is, Gurpa means mental agitation, having many thoughts, the mind always going from one object to another. Okay, one subject to another. Chingwa means the mental dullness, this inner state of sleepiness, where the mind is little foggy and we don't see things so clearly. Some people enter into meditation, think that are meditating, but then there is this pleasurable state of half asleep. It's actually quite nice. But if my mind is foggy, and I stay meditating in this foggy state, what am I familiarizing myself with? The foggy state of mind. Okay? And meditation, it's not to familiarize oneself with the foggy state of mind. We want to familiarize ourselves with compassion, with satisfaction, with different things, and we need clarity. So we have mental agitation, the mind jumping from one object to another, not being able to stay. And then we have on the other side mental dullness, or this mental sleepiness, in which when it's very strong, we simply fall asleep. When it's very weak, we are there sitting, we observe the object that could be the breath, but the mind is not clear. It's as if it's a little foggy. Okay, this also needs to be avoided. These are the two main objects. But for most of us, our problem mainly is mental agitation or mental dullness. I believe that for most of us, the main issue is mental agitation. We sit, we try to be there. It's not that we sit to meditate, we start observing our breath, and then suddenly, we enter into this sort of half-asleep state and we stay there. No, our mind is going into many places. So that's the first thing that we need to deal with. First thing, we need to learn how to keep our mind still. Second, we will go to the other part, which is how to make the mind that doesn't become too still, in the sense that we don't want to stop the mind activity. We don't want to enter into a state of total sleepiness and the mind is foggy. We want to have a clear mind at the same time. Okay? The posture is supposed to help it already. Because when we sit in the correct posture, with our back straight, as we explained yesterday, this should already help us not to go into mental agitation and mental dullness. Now, we need to start making the opposite effect, the opposite direction of what our mind is somehow used to. That's why in the beginning it's painful. One person once told me, "Oh Lama, when I first started to meditate, my inner sensation was as if I had the nails going through the blackboard. It's like, I want to get out of this, you know." Okay? So, because we are used always to have external objects and to change from one object to the other all the time. So to do something different, which is stick to one object, it's painful in the beginning. Okay? So what is the first step in order to be able to have good control over our mind? We need to train our mind to stick into one object. Is it possible to meditate as we move? Yes. But this is for super expert level. Okay? Because while we are moving, our mind is taken by so many objects, it's not really possible. Okay? So, first thing, we need to sit. To meditate correctly, we need to overcome mental agitation and mental dullness. And we need to develop what is called flexibility of the body and flexibility of the mind. Flexibility of the body is called in Tibetan Lügi Xinjiang, and flexibility of the mind Semgi Xinjiang. Okay? Xinjiang means flexibility. It's translated as flexibility. What does that mean? Flexibility of the body, it means that I sit to meditate, and I don't need to move at all, and it's pleasurable to stay into that position without moving. The lack of flexibility of the body means I sit to meditate, and after some time, what happens? I start scratching the knee and pain here, and then here, there, and I need to move something. Oh, I need, not okay, we feel like moving and scratching. Okay? And it's tiring. It's physically tiring. It's not pleasurable to stay without moving. This is the lack of flexibility of the body. Okay? When we develop the full flexibility of the body in relation to meditation, it means we sit in the position of meditation, and it becomes pleasurable to be in that position, and we don't feel any need whatsoever to move. And the flexibility of the mind, it means we choose one object of meditation. Our mind can stay into that object of meditation without mental agitation, without mental dullness, this inner fog, and it is pleasurable. It's not tiring. It is pleasurable to stay into that state. So we develop the full state of concentration, which is called shamatha in Sanskrit, or in English, calm abiding, in Tibetan, shine, when we have the full state of flexibility of the body and the mind. Okay? We start by training in flexibility of the body, and then we go to the training of the flexibility of the mind. Okay? So there is one simple exercise that I'd like to share with you today, that it is not meditation, but for me it's preparation for meditation. Okay, so what we will do, I will explain to you now, and then I invite each one of you to try. The exercise is, we sit in the correct posture of meditation, as I have explained yesterday. So we have the 8 postures of Vairochana. We sit in a comfortable place with our back straight, sitting on a little bit higher cushion. Okay, we have our legs in a comfortable position, crossed-legged or sitting in a chair, whatever is more comfortable for us. Our back is straight, our shoulders are relaxed. The right hand on top of the left hand with the 2 thumbs touching together. The shoulders, as we said before, are relaxed. Our head is slightly forward. Our mouth is relaxed with the tongue touching the palate. Our eyes are slightly closed, looking downwards. We are aware of our own breath. And we gradually allow our breath to be deeper. And we breathe with our belly, not with our chest. We allow the air to go down, and from down after to move upwards. And we try to breathe in a 4-cycle breathing, which is we inhale, then we keep our breath briefly, then we exhale, we keep the breath before inhaling, and then we inhale. So we have inhale 1, keep the breath 2, exhale 3, keep the breath 4. And then we inhale again. Okay? So we try to do with awareness of these 4 stages. And once we have the awareness of our breath and we breathe a little bit deeper from the abdomen, not so much from the chest, and so on, we have the 8 postures of Vairochana. Now, this exercise is we will sit in this position with the tongue in the palate, the whole complete position, and we will say to ourselves, I am not going to move. You are not meditating. You can think about anything you want. Your mind can go to the 10 directions and go from your childhood to the day of today, and you can imagine your whole life to the future. You can watch movies in your mind. You can think about anything you want. But physically, you will not move. And try to see for how long you can stay. Okay? So we just sit there. And we use the help of our breath. At one point we will feel like moving and we will not move. Then we will feel like some part of our body is itching and we will not scratch. We don't need to take care of the mind. We just need to take care of the body right now. We will not move. And we try to relax our body into this state of stillness. So as we breathe in and we breathe out, slowly, gradually, we will relax each part of the body. So when we inhale, we gather the tensions that are in our body. And when we exhale, we let the tensions go away. So in any moment later, when we feel that it starts to become uncomfortable, that is little bit, then we can stop. We stop by slowly opening our eyes. Then we move our hands. Then we can move the rest of the body. Okay? We come back gradually, not at once. We don't stand up suddenly. Okay? So we will not do the full exercise now because each one have a different timing. And once I did this exercise with some small kids in the monastery. I had some nice Swiss chocolate. And then I brought the chocolate and I was giving to them. There were 4 boys that were living with me. And then I said to them, okay, let's make a game. Everybody's sitting in the posture of meditation. They were not used to meditate at all. They are not. This is not the daily practice that you do in the monastery, in Tibetan monasteries normally. And I said to them, sit in the position, everybody silent, no moving. The one that stays longer without moving wins the chocolate. The first one, which was the smallest one, he was, I think, 9 or less. At one point, he starts moving. There was a lot of mosquitoes in the room also. So he started moving, and then, okay, he lost the game. Then he was jumping in front of the others and doing all sorts of things. But the other 3, they stayed for 45 minutes. And then at one moment I said, okay, everybody stop, everybody eat the chocolate together. We all win, and we share the chocolate together. But this is something that we need to try, okay? It's not that difficult. But the important thing is that when we sit to meditate, in the very beginning, we have fear. Maybe my knee will be painful. Maybe I will be uncomfortable. Maybe there will be this and that, and what if this and that. First of all, no one is holding us here. We can stop at any moment we want. But we need to train ourselves. We need to familiarize ourselves. We need to gain confidence with ourselves that we can make it. So first step, we develop confidence with the body. So we sit and we stay. You can have a watch just to see how long you stay. Don't make like sort of competition. You need always to stay more. You need to just look, what time is it? Sit down and do it as long as it's comfortable, going a little bit beyond your comfort zone. But do not force too much. Because if you stop the exercise, which is not yet meditation, but if you stop the exercise, this exercise or any other meditation after, if you stop the meditation when it's too difficult, if you went too much beyond your own comfort zone, then the next time you will not have any wish and desire to repeat it again. So we stop when it's still okay, nice, little difficult. We overcome that little level of difficulty. We can do a little bit more, and then we stop. Don't force yourself too much. It's better to do more often, shorter, and each time naturally it will become a little longer, than do few times very long, especially in the beginning. Later, we do few times very long. But in the beginning, we need to do more times short periods. Okay? So this exercise is important to do it sitting, because you can also do technically also in the bed or in other positions, but we want to train to meditate, so we need to train our body into the meditation posture. Okay? Sometimes I saw in some countries, different countries, there are some military guards that they stay still, like in England there are, or in China I saw in different places, they are there still for the whole day. No. Some of them even need to stay the whole day with the eyes looking from one side to the other. I think it's really not easy to stay the whole day there without moving, no? But they train, and they get used to it. Okay? So similar to that, we need to train ourselves into the position of meditation, not into other positions. Because if we train ourselves standing, that's not what we want, right? So we sit in the correct posture of meditation, and we familiarize ourselves with the posture. We simply stay there, and we teach ourselves that it's fine to be in that position. Everything is okay. And we give some time to it. Okay? And this by itself already teaches us something very good. To be there doing, let's say, nothing. We are doing a lot. We are training ourselves to remain still. That's a lot. But apparently looks like we are not doing anything. Okay? Which is also a very good learning, to be there and just stay. Okay? So this exercise, I think it's not that difficult, right? Can we all do it? Yes or no? Yeah? Okay. It's a very useful exercise if you do it. If you don't do it, it's not so useful. Okay? So, it's something that you need to try. I cannot do for you. No one can do for you. So we need to try. Because once we are able to sit and to stay, and we can stay a little bit longer, then we start by training the mind. Okay? And here we have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of breathing exercise that I like to share with you. Okay? which they can be done independently, one from the other, or they can be done together. We can do sets of 1 or 2 or 3 or all the 4 also. Okay? So namely, the 4 breathing exercise that we have is we have the 9-cycle breathing exercise. Then there is the breathing exercise with visualization of light and smoke. Then we have the counting breathing exercise and the simple breathing exercise. Okay? Let's say this 4. Simple breathing exercise, counting, visualization of light and smoke, and then we have the 9-cycle breathing. Okay? One other breathing exercise that we can do, but I would advise to do this in the first stage, which is the one that we have just said before, to train the body, which is as we are sitting without movement, we need to connect mainly with our body. We need to feel our body and allow our body just to be there. Okay? In the beginning, we may feel the different parts of the body, one touching the other and so on. There is one moment after some time in which we start feeling the whole body as one. We don't feel anymore the difference between one hand touching the other, for example. And until it reaches a state which is pleasurable. When we reach that, then we have completed one step. Okay? When we are doing this, we can use our breath. When we inhale, we gather the tensions. For example, we observe our shoulders. We inhale, we imagine the tensions that are in our shoulders, that we take it. When we exhale, we let the tensions go away. So we use our breath to relax our body. Okay? And this simple technique we can also do when we are lying in the bed, before we fall asleep, or any moment, which is also useful. We observe where there is tension in our chest, in the head, in the neck, on the legs. We see where do we have tension in the abdomen. We inhale, and when we inhale, we imagine, we focus our attention where the tension is, and we gather the tension as we inhale. And then we exhale, the tension is completely gone away. Okay? This is we do together with the exercise of not moving the body. Okay. Now, let's see briefly these breathing exercises. If we would explain things as they were done in the older times, like the way of guiding before would be, we explain something, you go to try. When you have reached some level of stability into that part of the practice, then you come back for the next explanation. Okay? Many masters of the past, this is the way of practicing. So this means today we would have concluded, you go there. Once you're able to sit and stay stable and have some state of pleasure of being there, then we go to the next step. But if we do like this, we are many people, each one have a different timing, it becomes more difficult. So I will give the different steps that we need to follow, but then after you know which are the steps to follow, and you can do on your own timing. Okay. So the second step is we start concentrating on our breath. Okay. The way how I prefer to do is we start first with some simple breathing exercise. Simple breathing meditation, which means we are sitting in the correct posture, we are stable there, and we simply place our attention on our own breath. In particular, we can place the attention at the sensation of at our nostrils as the air goes in and the air goes out. So we place our attention at the entrance of our nostrils, the sensation that we have as we inhale and as we exhale. Okay? So it's easy because the object of meditation is physical. It's something tangible. We are not trying to focus our mind in something that is abstract. We have something very tangible, very objective. And the breath is one of the few things that is part both of the sympathetic and parasympathetic system. So actually, through the breath, we can move a lot on other levels also. For example, the way how we breathe, for me, is like the metronome, the one that shows the time, like tak, 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 no? Like when playing music, of the mind. For example, try to think fast and breathe slow. It's quite difficult. And try to do the other thing around. Think slow and breathe fast. It's quite difficult, actually. Okay, so the way how we breathe influences the way how we think. So, the first step, we will be sitting there, and what we will just do is we just observe our breath. One of the main parts of the exercise is that our mind will go away. We are there looking at observing the breath, and suddenly we will be thinking about dinner. Or we will be thinking about our son or daughter or husband or wife, or the movie that we want to see, or what we saw before, or who knows what. Okay? So when there is a particular thought that comes to our minds that has nothing to do with our breath, what we do, we don't block it and we don't follow it. We simply, gently bring our attention back to our breath. It's like we ignore it somehow. We stop giving importance to it. We don't fight against that thought. Because if you start fighting against the thought, then the thought wins 100%. I don't know, have you ever tried taking away a thought from your mind? Yes or no? There is a thought and you say, I need to stop thinking about that. Does it work normally? No, it becomes stronger. Okay? So the thought comes and then we say, okay, we don't even say anything. Oh yeah, the thought is there, fine. Go back to the breath. Just focus attention somewhere else, gently. Remember that a state of concentration is a profound state of relaxation. It's not a state of tension. We relax our mind from distractions and we rest our mind in the object of concentration. So in this case, the object of concentration is the sensation at our nostrils. So we will rest the mind there. We relax the mind, we rest it on the sensation at the nostrils as we inhale and exhale. Okay? And we stay like this. In the beginning, the mind will go here and it will go there constantly. And what we do, whenever we see the mind is somewhere else, gently, we bring it back. Okay, simple. This doesn't mean it's easy, but it's simple. It's not so easy because our mind is familiarized with many objects. And what we want to do is exactly train into the opposite. Train the mind to stay into one object. Okay. Next. We do this for not very long. We can do it until we can feel that we are more present in the present moment. And then we can go into the next technique of breathing. We can also stay into this technique for a longer period and only do this one. As I said before, all the 4 techniques can be done or alternatively or together. Okay? So personally, it depends also on the state of mind that we are. So for example, if we want to start meditating and we see that we have a state of mind which is very disturbed with anxiety, with anger, with jealousy, with worries, with sadness, some strong emotion there, then we need to do a little different order. We start first by visualization with breathing with visualization, in which we inhale light, coming with all the blessings of all holy beings, and as we inhale light, it will bring us a state of peace and calm. And then when we exhale dark smoke, putting away all our tension and sadness and whatever is the disturbing emotion that we have, it goes away. If the disturbing emotion is really strong, then we inhale from the nose and exhale from the mouth. Okay? This is also very good to teach to small children. It works very well. So, I have taught a few times to very small children. Okay, when you are angry, what you do? Inhale, put the anger out. Then they tried. I asked her sometimes. Then there was one small kid. And so after some time, one day, the mother saw him doing like this. And then, what are you doing? I'm putting away my anger. You know? And does it work? He said, yes. So, that's good to start from early age. So, this is if we are very strongly disturbed by some strong emotion. And we try to see it and inhale, exhale, and forget about it. Our mind is completely somewhere else. What we want to do is to start shouting and doing whatever. So what we do in this case, if we have strong aversion or strong attachment or strong sadness or anything, we inhale and exhale from the mouth, inhale light, exhale smoke, putting away this tension. Okay? And we focus every time we inhale more and more into this inner state of peace and calm. When the disturbing emotion gets a little bit less, then we inhale from the nose and we exhale from the nose. Okay. This is if we want to sit to meditate, but we see, or to read, or to study, or to pray, and we see that our mind is strongly disturbed by certain emotions. It could be anything. It could be anxiety, it could be fear, it could be attachment, it could be sadness, it could be anything. Then this is one technique that can help. Okay? Even, for example, one thing that quite helps is a bit tiring, but it helps. Sometimes we need, when disturbing emotions are very strong, we need to get tired somehow. If you sit and you can even take the mala, okay, and you do one full mala, inhale, exhale. There's one point when you get more or less to half and you say, better I calm down my mind, otherwise I really need to do a lot, Because if the mind gets calm in halfway, then you can stop breathing in this way. Okay, but it helps. You can try. Okay? So this is, which is a way which is called breathing technique with forceful breathing. The forceful breathing is we inhale stronger and we exhale through the mouth stronger. When the disturbing emotion is less strong, then we inhale from the nose and we exhale from the nose with white light, bringing a state of peace and blessings, black smoke going out as we exhale. Okay? I think it's quite clear, right? Okay. Next technique, which is my favorite one of my favorite ones, is called the 9-cycle breathing technique. The 9-cycle breathing technique, the actual name in Tibetan is called Lungro Gudrup. Lungro Gudrup literally would mean the 7 cycles of the breathing or the energy corpse. Ro in Tibetan has different meanings. The same precise word, depends on the context. The same precise word, the way you write and everything, it can mean taste, but it can also mean corpse. Okay. Tibetan language is particular. The same word, you change context, changes meaning. A very special language in many ways. Anyhow, so lung means wind, but it's also translated from the Sanskrit of prana. Prana means energy, okay, which is connected to our breath. Ro, in this case, corpse, is used in Tibetan when we mean something that is dead. For example, when we have tea, we make black tea, okay, we make tea. And then once the tea bag is completely used, What name do we give to that tea which doesn't give any more tea, the old tea? Tea corpse. In Tibetan, charo. Okay? So that's the corpse of the tea. That's dead tea. It doesn't make more tea. So that's the dead tea. Okay? So that's just to understand the way how the word is used. Okay? So lungro, it means the energies, lung, prana, which get stuck and block inside our system, which are not more used. It's the stuck energy that is inside our subtle body. Okay? There are mainly two types of stuck energy that we can get, or this energy corpse, let's call it like that, or blocked energies, which is from attraction and from aversion. So, for example, if we have a strong moment of anger, our body becomes tense. And it is said that when we have anger, there is inside of our body one part where the energy gets stuck. We have some energy blockages inside our body. This is created both by anger, aversion, and by attraction, desire. And then together it goes with all the other forms as jealousy, envy, fear, and all different strong emotions with so-called mental defilements. When we have these strong emotions, they create energy blockages. They leave something there. The emotion is finished, but energetically they have left something inside us. Okay? So we have aversion, attraction, and then there is another one which is indifference. Indifference is also this strong state of mental dullness that we talked before, like not knowing, not seeing, not being able to perceive. This is another type also. So this breathing technique, it's used to clear the energy channels from these energy blockages that were made from our strong emotions. Okay? It's clear. That's why the 9th cycle it's done in 9 cycles, but the original name, which normally is not translated, is the 9 cycles breathing for eliminating the energy blockages. Let's call it this way. Because in Tibetan it's very simple. Lung ro gu drup. Gu means 9, drup means to make. So it's prana or wind, corpse, 9, make. That's the name in Tibetan. When we need to translate, we need to say a long thing. A 9 cycle breathing technique to eliminate the subtle energy blockages. Okay, Lungro Gudrup in Tibetan. So, how do we do it? First of all, there is one aspect that we need to understand. We don't need to understand, but we like understanding things in our culture, so that's why I explain. Our subtle energies, they move with the mind. Okay? So basically, the description that is given is that the subtle energy winds are like horses, and the mind is like the horse rider, where the horse is blind, and the horse rider does not have legs. So the horse rider cannot go where the horse cannot go. But the horse doesn't know where to go unless the horse rider is telling. So the mind is like a horse rider with no legs. And the body, on every level, grows subtle or very subtle, is like a blind horse. The body doesn't go anywhere where the mind doesn't take it. And the mind cannot go where the body cannot go. Okay? On the gross, subtle, and very subtle level. So, based on this, if our hand is rested and we think, I want to raise my hand, can we do the movement? Yes, no? So technically, what happened when we did this? We thought, I want to raise my hand. We send a signal from the brain through the nervous system. The signal goes through our nervous system. It touches some muscles, and then it makes the movement, making it trying to make it simple. But right? This in our Western understanding, it's quite clear, right? I remember one friend that had one stroke. It's our friend from the Sangha. She had a stroke and part of her body was paralyzed. And the main exercise, the main part of her rehabilitation was to visualize the exercise, to visualize the movement. Because it is said that the more we imagine the movement, we continue to send signals through the nervous system until it finds the right passages for the movement to happen. Okay? When we take the ancient Buddhist texts and it talks about prana, it talks about these energy winds, it's given exactly the same example. You think about a movement, the wind moves inside and makes the movement to happen. The mind sends a signal, the wind moves, and then you do the movement. Okay? So, for my understanding, the subtle energy winds are very much connected with our nervous system also. Okay? We cannot say is the nervous system, but it's very much connected to it. All of this to say one concept that is very important in Buddhist meditation, especially into Vajrayana meditation, that is, where we direct the mind, the body follows. If I direct my mind into a certain place, the subtle energies will follow that place. Okay? When we have full concentration and we visualize certain parts of our body and visualize the lights going in and going into a certain place, our whole attention goes there. The energy moves into that direction. Okay? So how do we direct our subtle energies inside the body? Through visualization, because the body follows the mind. Okay? So now, in order to make this inner movement, we first visualize what is called the central channel. Basically, into Vajrayana Buddhism, this is the technique part of Vajrayana Buddhism, there is our subtle body anatomy. Okay? The central channel goes from the top of our head, actually starts at our forehead, then it goes around, it goes down through the center of the spine until the basis of the spine. That's the central channel. Then we have a left and a right channel. The left and the right channel, they go out from the two nostrils, follow side by side the central channel at different places, which is at the forehead, the crown, the heart, the navel. It goes around the central channel and then it continues. And then it goes around together again and then it continues. Okay? In the heart it goes 2 times around and then it continues. In the navel it goes around and 3 fingers below the navel it enters into the central channel. These are called the left and the right channel. Okay? Which has a name in Tibetan, which there is no real translation for it. That's why in most of the texts the translation is left and right. In Tibetan it's called Roma and Kyangpa. I don't know why this is the name, but we normally call it left and right. So, the left and the right channel basically is where the energy moves the most in our daily life. Basically, it is said that when we have more gross level of consciousness, and basically one channel is where most of the winds connected to attraction and the other one to aversion. The central channel is a more neutral state of mind. So, in this technique, there is one particular thing, is that when we visualize our central channel and the left and the right channel, in different meditation practices, we visualize it in different ways. And some people bring up the question, oh, but what is the real way how the channels are? In the meditation, the way how we visualize is not to resemble perfectly how they are, is to direct the winds correctly. Okay? The function of that visualization is not to see perfectly how our body is. It's not like a sort of inner anatomy to see the body as it is. It's basically technique to direct our subtle energies, to direct the mind and the subtle energy. So in this technique, we visualize the left and the right channel without the knots, just going straight, directly straight, side by side with the central channel. Okay? So we will visualize one straight channel that starts in the forehead, turns around and the head, goes down at the center of our spine, straight until the basis of our spine. Then we have another two channels, little bit weaker, that they go from the two nostrils. They go side by side with the central channel, and around 3 fingers below the navel, they enter into the central channel. Okay, so this is what we visualize. And here we can do this practice entering into many different details of this visualization. We could even dedicate a longer time to visualize the central channel and the left and the right channel and so on. But we would just do a very basic visualization, and then we start with the actual breathing exercise. Okay? The objective of this exercise is to clean our subtle energy channels from the energy blockages generated by attraction, by aversion, and by mental dullness and mental neutral state, like of this blocked mind state, in which we do not see anything, we do not perceive much, like when the mind is blocked without attraction or aversion. Okay? So, when we do the exercise, we first sit in the position of meditation, as we have explained, with our back straight. We do some short breathing exercise as we focus on our breath. Then we visualize the central channel. We imagine. Some of us have a very good capacity to visualize, like seeing. Others don't have much. Like I really don't have a good visualization capacity myself. So what I will do is we imagine. We don't need to see it, but we need to imagine that it is there. Okay? So we imagine the central channel, the left and the right channel. Once we have done that, then we will start with the 9-cycle breathing. So when we do the 9-cycle breathing, we will first do what is called the Vajra fist, in which we put the thumbs below our middle finger, okay, and then we close the hand. Okay, so this is called the Vajra fist. So, we put the thumbs touching the root of the ring finger, okay, and then we close our hands. Okay, the ring finger is a very important meridian, a very important place of energy. So we touch it to stimulate it, and we close our hands. And then we start by putting our 2 hands in our knees. And then we make like a massage, not too strong, but we move, okay, upwards, going from the leg and going up until near the armpit, and then we go forward. Then we start with the right hand, we go near to the index finger, and then we go down, and then we make the same type of massage going from the thumb to this part here, okay, under the body, and then we place our hand under our armpit. Then we raise the left hand, we raise the 2 fingers, which is the index and the middle finger, and then we touch with the index on the back of the middle finger, okay? And then with the left hand, we close the left nostril. And then we will inhale once, deeply. We keep our breath for a short time. And then we exhale completely from the other side. We block the right nostril. And we can breathe out or once or in 3 times. That helps to put all the air out. Then we hold for an instant, and then we repeat it again for another 2 times. We inhale, we hold, Then we exhale. Then we do for a third time again, as we inhale. We hold. And we exhale. When we finish for the third time, we move with the left hand again forwards. We make the opposite movement of the one we did before. Okay, going from down. And then we do again on the other side. With the left hand, we'll do the same sort of self-massage, going under the armpit. And then, again, the index finger on top of the middle finger. And then with the right hand, we will close the right nostril. And then we will inhale from the other side. And we'll do the same thing 3 times. Inhale deeply. And exhale as we block the left nostril. Okay, so we'll repeat this for 3 times. Again, inhale. Hold. And exhale. Hold. Inhale for the 3rd time from the left nostril. Hold as you close the left nostril and you exhale completely from the right one. Once we have finished the 3rd time, we move with our arm back forwards. We do the opposite movement. And then we hold the 2 hands in the mudra of meditation. And we inhale and exhale 3 times from both nostrils. Okay, so we inhale from both nostrils together. We hold for an instant. And then we exhale. Then we inhale again. We hold. And we exhale for the 2nd time. Then we hold for an instant. Then we inhale, hold, and exhale for the 3rd time. Okay, so with this we complete the 9 cycles. We have 3 from one nostril, 3 cycles from the other, and then 3 cycles from both together, which makes a total of 9. Okay, is the exercise clear? See? Okay, now, there are some small details that we can add to it. Okay, one detail is that when I am, inhaling, I visualize the air going in, moving through the right channel, going down, and then when I hold the air, before I exhale, I hold the air in the navel. So the air went through the right channel, entered the central channel, before going through the other channel and going out. Okay? So I am here, I inhale, the air goes below the navel. I hold the air a little bit below the navel, and then I exhale. And then with the force, as I exhale, the air goes out through the left channel. And as I do that, all the blockages that are on the left channel, they go out. So we imagine all the subtle energy blockages, like dirt, moving through our channels, and then the channels are clean and cleared. Okay? When doing this, we can add what is called a little bit of vase breathing. So vase breathing, it means that when we inhale, this is normally not explained, but I like to add it. When we inhale, then we send our breath down like one abdominal breathing. And at the same time, we move upwards as we, we make our lower muscles tense. Imagine if we need to jump, okay? When jumping, we make our lower muscles tense, like if we are bringing the energy up, and at the same time we are sending it down. That's why it's called a vase. It's like if we concentrate the energy at 3 fingers below the navel. Okay? The same technique is used also, very similar technique in different, like Qigong or other martial arts also, okay? Or in yoga also, in different techniques. We call it vase breathing. It can be done on many levels. This is a very, very simple what we are saying here. We just inhale and then we send the air down, and then in the same time as we send down, we bring the energy up as we tense a little bit our lower muscles, and we concentrate that it holds 3 fingers below the navel. And we stay with the air there. We stay with the energy focused on that part for as long as is comfortable. Okay? And then as we move from one side of the nostril to the other, we hold below the navel, and then we exhale. So every time we inhale, we bring the energy down below the navel, and then we bring it up, and we hold it there, and then we exhale. Okay? And we do this on the 2 sides, and then on both together. Okay? Let me just check something here in my book. There is something that I want to check. 1 second. Okay, no, it's not explained here, the other part. One detail I want. So, just for extra information, with this information you can already do the exercise, okay? With extra information is similar that our right brain functions which part of our body, the right side or the left side? The left side, and the left brain to the right side, right? Our subtle channels is the same way, okay? So the right part of our body is connected with the male energy, okay? Which is the energy more related to the part of aversion. And the left side of our body is connected to the female energy, which is connected to the part more related to attraction, okay? Then, the channels, they go opposite. So the right channel is female energy and the left channel is male energy. They are exactly the opposite. Okay? So when we do the cleaning of the channels, we imagine the blockages that are inside our channels are mainly the blockages of attraction and aversion. Okay? So the right channel is the female energy, so the blockage is generated mainly by attraction. The left channel is the male energy channel, so it's mainly the blockages generated by aversion. Okay? And the central channel is the neutral channel, which is the blockages generated by ignorance, by this state of not knowing, of this mental fog and inner sleepiness and indifference. Okay? So, as we do, we imagine that we clean all the blockages. They go out. So we imagine the energy going in. We can even, as we inhale, we can imagine light coming in, bringing us all the blessings, and this light goes cleaning the channel. And then it cleans, and it's like a sort of, how do you say? I'm don't know what's the name, but something that is pushing like a pipe and putting all the dirt and pulling all the dirt, okay, until it moves upwards and it cleans completely the channel. Okay, it's clear? Okay, so we do this 3 times on one side, 3 times on the other, and then 3 times together. When we do the 3rd time, which is the 3 times with both together, the energy goes from both nostrils, which are already clean, the 2 channels, enter into the central channel and cleans the central channel. It fills up the central channel, and then the dirt from the central channel goes down and goes out from the 2 nostrils again. Okay? There are different ways how to do, but this is the way how I think it's best to explain in this way. Okay? So, we inhale from 2 nostrils, because we already cleaned these 2 channels, the energy goes in, enters into the central channel, fills the central channel, and then as it cleans, it moves down again all the dirt and goes out from the 2 channels. Out. Okay? There is one other version, but we keep with this one. Okay? So this is called the 9 cycle breathing. And it's a very powerful exercise. And you can even do just like in the very morning when you wake up, before doing other things, you can do the 9 cycle breathing, or before doing any meditation. It's a very useful practice, but it's important for you to try it. The more you do, the more you get familiarized with it, and the more you can feel on yourself the benefits that it has. Okay? So this is this other technique. And then there is the last technique from the 4. So we had simple breathing technique, just observing the breath. Then we have visualizing light going in, smoke going out, with forceful breathing or with normal breathing. Then we have the 9 cycle breathing. And then we have counting our breath. Okay? The one of counting, it's especially useful when we have a lot of thoughts in our mind. Our mind is a little bit too busy, and we need to meditate, and our mind is too busy. So in this case, what we do is that we will count our breath. So we do inhale, exhale 1. And we keep the attention on the breath and on the counting. Inhale, exhale 2. And like this we go up to 21. Normally we do cycles of 7. So if when you reach 7 and the mind is calm and peaceful, then you don't need to go on with another 7. If you see that the mind is still with too many thoughts, you go from 7 to 14. If it's not yet calm, you go from 14 to 21. Okay? And if it's not yet calm, then you can go another cycle of 21, or you can choose to start your meditation anyhow, because anyhow, you will not come down so easily at that moment, okay? So, when doing this, there is 2 ways of doing it. There is the more common way, and then there is, let's say, the more hardcore way, like expertise way, okay? The most common way, which is the one I advise everyone to do mainly, you can try the other one also, but it's going to be very difficult. The first one is we just inhale and exhale, and we keep count of our breath as we exhale, and we focus in the air going in and the air going out. Okay? In this first one, you need to restart counting if you lose count. So let's say you remember that you counted up to 16, but suddenly you don't remember which number you are. Then what you do? Go back to 1. Okay? Otherwise, you go up to 21. The most, let's say, the more expert version is inhale, exhale 1, inhale, exhale 2. In between this, if you see that you lose concentration and your mind goes somewhere else, you go back to 1. For most of us, we never get out of 1 in the beginning. Okay, it's too difficult. If you get to 2, it's already something in the very beginning. So that's why this is just to do expert level, okay? But we know that it exists as an exercise. So It's just to help the mind to have a focus and to come down. But in the beginning, we just inhale, exhale 1. Inhale, exhale 2. Inhale, exhale 3. And we go from 1 up to 21. Okay? And then when we reach 21, we can go back a little bit to simple breathing technique where we just observe the breath without counting. And then we will start with the other part of the meditation in which we start to generate the motivation, which will start with an analytical meditation on the Four Noble Truths, which we'll explain tomorrow, okay? And then we'll go to the other part. So, one way in which we can do, which I like, is we start first with some simple breathing technique. We just observe our breath and we focus on our breath. Then we do a little bit of visualization of light going in and smoke going out. Then we do the 9-cycle breathing. And then we conclude again with some simple breathing meditation. Okay. Is clear? From these 4 techniques, we can do each one of them separately. We can change the order maybe if we prefer. I like this order. Okay? But we can also do only just simple breathing technique, or we can only do only the 9 cycles. It's in our hand. Okay? And this is simple yet powerful too. Okay? And you need to try. So, once again, we start by training ourselves just to be seated. Then we start to train our mind to be still. First we train the body to be still, then we train the mind to be still. In the beginning it's painful, it's difficult. The more we do, the easier it becomes. Okay? The only problem that at one point it becomes pleasurable, then you don't want to stop doing it. Okay? Not a real problem. But it is something that once you do, and it has so many positive effects, so many positive side effects. Okay? Then at one point, when we are able to stay with our mind more focused and stable, we need to be careful not to allow ourselves to go into mental dullness. Not to allow, when we stop having many thoughts around, we should not stay entering into the state of sleepiness and like this foggy state of mind, which is pleasurable. But remember, to meditate means to familiarize our mind. In this state of meditation, we are familiarizing our mind with one object of perception, not many, and not jumping from one to the other. This is what we are familiarizing right now. The main objective here is to familiarize our mind with the mind being still. This is the first step. Okay? But if we familiarize our mind with the mind being still using an object that we don't want to familiarize with, that's a problem. For example, imagine that you focus your mind into a state of sadness. And you stay there, single-pointed in the sadness. Maybe you are able to keep the mind still in the sadness. But it's not good to familiarize oneself with sadness, right? We don't want that. Okay? Why do we choose the breath? Because that's a neutral object. It's not positive or nor negative. And it's very easy because it's tangible. If we start right away meditating on gratitude, it's much more difficult. Okay? It's wonderful to meditate on gratitude, which is we generate in a state of gratitude and we remain into that state of gratitude single-pointed. It's wonderful, but it's more difficult. That's why we start with the breath. But if we start with the breath and we end up familiarizing ourselves with mental dullness, we are familiarizing ourselves, we are meditating finally in this state of mental dullness, and that's not what we want. And many masters said that there are some meditators in Tibet and in India and different places, they will stay years meditating in retreat and familiarizing yourself with subtle mental dullness. Because You sit to meditate and you enter into the state in which there is a good level of concentration, but the mind is not clear and it's pleasurable. That's the real problem somehow. And then you stay into that state and you may even be thinking that you are meditating so well. Yes, you are meditating very well in mental dullness. You know, you're truly familiarizing yourself with it. But that's not what we want. Okay? Just one extra thing about meditation. Some people say and understand that when we meditate, we need to empty the mind. Okay? It's in the nature of the mind always to have an object of perception. We can empty the mind from conceptual thinking. That's possible. But there is still thinking. We still have an object of perception. We can stop this constant inner dialogue. Yes, that's wonderful. But this doesn't mean that the mind has no object of perception. Okay? So even if I try to think about nothing, I'm still thinking about something, because nothing is something. Okay? So the object here is not to stop thinking. The object is to keep the mind still into what we choose. Okay? It is said that if we dedicate our full time to develop concentration, we stop any other activity. We have the right instructions and we stop all other activities. And we are in a place in which there are not so many distractions around. Like we go into retreat, into a place which it's with good conditions. And we focus around 12 to 14 hours a day of meditation. Only on concentration, we can develop the highest level of concentration into 3 months' time. This is what has been explained. You know, it's actually very wonderful, no, if we think that it's possible in this way. But my advice is, most of us do not have the conditions and the possibilities to go by ourselves into a small hut in the mountain or who knows where and stay for 3 months there. Okay? We don't have the time and the possibility right now to do it, okay? And many of us who would have the time don't have the inner conditions to do it. So what shall we do? We shall start right now with what we can do. Take 10 minutes every day. Take 15 minutes every day. In the morning, in the evening, or in the afternoon, whenever you can, or once or twice a day. And first start by sitting with no moving. Then start by always observing the breath and doing the techniques we have just said. But make it. Do it. Because if we do it every day, it takes longer than dedicating. Imagine if you take it and you make 12 hours a day only with these techniques, and you repeat the breathing techniques so many times with small pauses in between, and you repeat it again and again. It's a very intensive process, and then sure the effect is stronger, no? But as most of us, we cannot do it right now. What we do, we start to try, we do it for every day, half an hour, 15 minutes. We choose the timing that we have. We start with little, then slowly we go to more. Because when the mind is completely trained, is when the mind does whatever we want, what we are training our mind for, without needing to put effort, spontaneously. That's when the mind is fully trained. So when is the mind fully trained into concentration? When we don't need to put any effort and we just choose and the mind stays there, without needing to put any effort. Until we reach there, we need to constantly do the training, because when we stop doing the training, then we do the opposite training. Because when we are not meditating, in other words, when we are not training our mind to be still, are we training our mind to be in constant movement? or not? Yes. So it's like we train to be still and then we do the opposite. So one thing that is also good to do is when we are not in the meditation session, which we can do a little bit in the morning or in the evening, we start, but in between, we try to be the more that we can present in what we are doing as we do the daily activities. So when we eat, we are aware that we are eating. You try to feel the weight of the food in the fork or the spoon. You feel it touching your mouth. You feel the food, biting the food, and then the food going in, and try to feel every aspect as possible. It's like when having a shower. I like to feel the difference of temperature of the water, of the head and the foot. When the water touches the head from the shower, my perception is that when the water goes through the body and it touches the foot, the temperature is a bit changed already. And we can perceive every minimum detail of the present moment. Okay? When we walk, we feel the foot touching the ground, and we try to observe, we try to be aware of what is happening. We try to be present in the present moment. We try to bring awareness to what we do. In this way, we are moving in the same direction when we are not meditating as well as when we are meditating, of not being completely taken away from distractions at all times, of not having the mind jumping from one thing to the other. If we observe what we are doing and we try to be aware of what we are doing in the present moment, then we are training into presence of the mind in the same way. We are training our mind to be still also when we are not meditating. Okay, so this is simple advice, powerful, not so easy, but powerful, to have awareness in what we do. One day someone went to Buddha and asked Buddha, "Oh Buddha, what do you and your disciples do?" And Buddha answered, "What we do? We sit, we eat, and we walk." I don't remember the order now, but the word is three. And then this man said, "Oh Buddha, but everyone sits, eats, and walk. So what's there special about what you do?" And the Buddha said, very simple. When we sit, we are seated. When we eat, we are eating. When we walk, we are walking. So try to bring this awareness to your daily life also, okay? There's a moment to think about something, then we think about it. It's not a moment to think about it, we don't need to think about it. I am eating, I am eating. I'm talking to you, I am talking to you. I am listening, I am listening. I am enjoying my water, I feel the pleasure of it. Okay? So, this is what we need to do in between the meditation sessions. And then we walk together in the same direction. Otherwise, we are doing two opposite exercises. One willingly and one not willingly, but still we are making it. Okay. So, if I ask you, is this whole process easy? I don't think so. But is it impossible? No. What is difficult is to keep constancy by doing it. Theoretically, it's not so complicated. But we need to do it, and we need to repeat it, and we need to overcome the barriers of our tiredness and the limits that we put to ourselves. Oh, and it's difficult. Who cares that it's difficult? The objective is good. Since when life is easy? If we would not do things because they are difficult, would we ever start a relationship with someone? No. Would we ever start learning a new language? No. Would we ever learn anything new? Mostly not. So if we don't want to do anything that is difficult, there is not much alternative than dying, but dying is also difficult. So I don't know really what we can do then. Okay? It's part of life that there is hardship in things, and it's not always easy. So the point is that there is no problem going through hardship. The problem is going through hardship for something that harms us, instead of going through hardship for something that is beneficial to us. Okay, so constancy, presence, this is what brings us great benefit. No any great meditator started as being a great meditator. All the great meditators, they started having the difficulties that we all have. But then with constancy, with effort, one step after the other, the differences come. Okay, so this is mainly what I wanted to bring for today. And from the preliminary practices, we conclude the part of preparing the body. And here we have the part of preparing the mind. So the next step is generating the correct motivation. So into generating the correct motivation, we will see how to generate love towards oneself and how to generate love towards others. Okay? And with this, we will conclude the third Dharma of preparation, which is, from my perspective, the most important of all of them, but very important part also. Okay, so we do our dedications here. We conclude here for today. Sashi peke chushi meto chan rirab linshe nide gemba de sangye shinto mikte ulwargi drugun namda shingla che parasho yedam Guru Ratna Mandrala Kam Niryata Yami Jetsun Lame Kutse Rapten Chin Nam Karatin Le Chokchur Gebata Losan Tempe Drume Sasum Ki Drove Munsel Takto Ne Gyur Chi Kewa Kuntu Yanda Lama Dan Drame Cheki Pela Long Chin Sadan Lamgi Yente Rabzone Dorje change kopa nyur tobe sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin ninsen takto delek pe kuncho sumke chinge lob kuncho sumke ngodrup kuncho sumke trashi shun Oma hun tambala me sangye rinpoche kyobala me tamche rinpoche drimbala me gendu rinpoche Chiamne kuncho sumla chopa. Buon appetito. Buon riposo. Okay. Tomorrow morning I will be here at 9. And we will be doing the practice, putting emphasis in the preliminaries with the breathing techniques and the 9-cycle breathing together. Okay? Quindi domani mattina faremo la pratica alle 9. Dando enfasi alla parte della meditazione sul respiro e respiro in 9 cicli e così via. Ok? Grazie.